This is Harrison with Jenny Fedora.
And I am Jack with JackTheRipoff.
And, we just passed the 4th of July, and I wanted to do something with Jack because, we just celebrated, the freedoms of America.
Yeah, I was out of town during that time celebrating with my family, so that's why you haven't seen me over here in a while.
Yep. And this is one of those times of year. It's always good, to remember. It's like, we got to remember to thank and support troops and the people who support our troops and the government and everything else like that for helping to protect those freedoms. So thank you, Jack.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for working with the federal employees that help support us.
Thank you. And you're welcome, I guess. So, it's an interesting, it's always interesting about stuff like this. And there's always wonderful things that are said both ways sometimes around, this time of year.
Absolutely. This is the time that we can celebrate ourselves as a country and, as a whole and, just enjoy and appreciate the freedoms that we are given living in America.
Yeah. And, even underneath like the basic things of it, you have your freedom of speech, your freedom of the press, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly.
Yeah, a lot of things that a lot of countries aren't fortunate enough to have.
Yeah, or even freedom from excessive or cruel and unusual punishments.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that that people live in fear for speaking out what they feel may be right, or what they feel needs to be something that needs to be shared out because they are under the constant fear of getting squashed under by those up above them.
Right. And that's one of the things that a lot of people take for granted in this country.
Absolutely.
And it's funny because it also happens on the internet too. And that's been a big thing. That's been a fight going on for quite a while on the internet now. It's been where do your freedoms lie on the internet?
Absolutely. From YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. I mean, there's just a lot of sites out there that they kind of take for granted those freedoms that we are given. Yeah.
And that's been a very, very interesting thing because in this last year with some of the dynamics, because freedom has become a very important thing to people because they don't want to be oppressed. They want to be able to, speak. They want to be able to have conversations and everything else like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of news sites have, started to pop up and try to, take advantage of this, such as Gab.ai, is trying to compete with Twitter and, promote itself as a place where you can speak freely. You have Minds.com, which is kind of like a alternative for Facebook that allows you to post and speak freely and everything else like that.
Yep.
And then you even have like VidMe that had positioned itself as a place to allow you to post freely your videos. Bring us your huddled masses that yearn to post freely was part of their Statue of Liberty video.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and they've even, made fun of like YouTube heroes and everything else like that for wanting to basically shut down freedom of thought,
Yeah, exactly.
And this is, now obviously the general assumption caveat here needs to be is granted, there shouldn't be hate speech or, stuff like that, but there's a line and weird definitions with that because perception of people
everything's
too.
A matter of perception, especially when you're on the internet. And so a lot of things can be perceived different ways, which honestly, at that point, it should really fall under the rule of common sense more than anything.
Right. And that's been an interesting thing. But it's been fascinating, like in a year's time watching all this evolve. We watched, we've seen these other sites that are coming up and they're starting to do well because they are giving a different place. And granted, some people are saying it's becoming a quote unquote echo chamber because what you're getting is the people that feel like their freedoms are being oppressed, and those people tend to be conservative,
Generally, so to speak, that does tend to bode correctly.
Yeah. And, the more, and that's where it's kind of been, even though it's like historically liberals were the ones that pushed for the freedom of speech with UCLA back in the 70s,
mm-hmm.
and it's an interesting time.
It really is. Like, you know, the liberals back then that pushed for these kind of freedoms, you know, generally tend to be the liberals nowadays kind of backtracking from that. Yeah. And it surprises me.
Yeah, that's what's scary is when you see people going, no, we need to shut down this sort of speech, you know, and we've even seen a lot of that. And granted, it's like the language has evolved with a lot of these things where it started to become, the rhetoric has been turned up and everything else like that.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like we even saw recently, I don't know, did you at least see the CNN controversy?
Oh yeah, no, I've been keeping a close eye on that one. That's just to blackmail a 15-year-old boy.
Well, he wasn't 15. That's a bit of misinformation,
Okay,
but still the blackmail a Reddit user.
Yeah, like blackmailing a person who created a meme. Like, really, CNN, are you really going to stoop so low as you're going to blackmail a Reddit user to threaten to dox him should he come up with any more of like those, I don't know, hurtful memes? Did you get your feelings hurt, CNN? The big, you know, what are they, multi-million-dollar company?
Yeah. Well, the best part is, you know, I love the internet on something like this. It's like, oh, you had your fifis hurt? Well, guess what? We're going to put out a lot more, you know, memes and
GIFs.
GIFs.
Yeah, they started a war. They started a war with the internet, and I love it.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you're basically, there's the threat that we are going to expose your information and we are going to basically trample your ability to express yourself freely, you know? And that's been very, very interesting.
Very interesting indeed.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, you know, that I guess I've been personally kind of invested in here a little bit recently watching is we saw freedoms being kind of trampled.
Yeah. Trampled is a light way to put it. Imagine Mufasa in the Stampede of Wildebeest. That's kind of how I would kind of proportion it to be.
So, you know, we have, it's horrible. I mean, I was actually so morally devastated watching this last week, what happened on VidMe particularly, where they just said, you know, that people can't, we don't like the fact that Quintantino had ended up basically tweeting out to a critic, Eli the computer guy, going, hey, what do you think of this?
Asking for an opinion. Like let's put this into perspective. He asked Eli the computer guy for his opinion. Now, if you guys are aware, Eli the computer guy has been rather critical of VidMe. And almost to a point where he's been kind of unfair to VidMe.
Unfair, and some of his language was uncalled for, you know, to say the least. But, you know, it's one of those things where when his videos are more, you know, mindful of his language and whatnot, he's a lot, there are some good points in there. Yeah,
like once it gets to a point where you can actually watch his videos without, you know, cringing at the way he addresses a lot of his subjects, you know, it comes to show that, you know, as a critic, he hits a lot of good points. He does know a good portion of what he's talking about. You know, considering, so you said what? The guy's been in IT for about as long as you?
Yeah, 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years. I mean, obviously, he's going to know something about that, considering the field he was in.
And he's been a content producer on the internet for 8 years.
8 years, wow.
Yeah.
And that's probably what? That's his primary moneymaker right there, isn't it?
Primary moneymaker nowadays, you know? And as well as things, you know, it's like, you should always listen to what people are saying, even if they say it harshly.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to agree with it, but you know, even if it's said harshly, if you get angry, you should probably step back, take it with a grain of salt, because not everybody's going to feed you the criticism with a spoonful of sugar.
No, exactly.
You know,
it's when it comes to the internet, that's never going to be the case 9 times out of 10, because people on the internet, they like to be critical because it's the only place they can without, you know, being in the general public. So they will tend to be more critical because they feel more comfortable in doing so.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't like it, turn it off. Don't have to listen to them.
Exactly. Don't follow them. Block them if you have to.
That's the nice thing about freedoms.
Yeah.
But at the same point, it's like, those are also the people that sometimes you got to listen to a point. You may not necessarily agree with them on everything, but it helps to make you understand your argument better,
Absolutely.
And so it's like, even I've put up counterpoints in regards to Eli, the computer guy, because there was things that he was missing in regards to VidMe.
Mm-hmm.
However, when he's saying, VidMe has presented itself as a platform of free speech, and now they are oppressing free speech, such as removing the verification from Quintantino.
Which, when I heard of that, there is, at that point, there's no justification for that. And this is coming from a creator that tends to stay neutral on these kind of things. I don't necessarily address the problems that VidMe is going through, whether it be in the creator relations or the technical side of things. That's not really what I address. That's not really, what I pay attention to. So the fact that someone like me, who doesn't necessarily get involved in those kind of things, is coming here to make his statement, it should kind of ring a bell somewhere, because now you're getting the people who tend to not be involved in that become involved in that.
Yeah. And this is, besides us being people that support, the freedoms of everybody, whether it's signing a contract, putting lives on the line or stuff like that.
Absolutely.
We're also, been chosen to be featured creators of, for VidMe. And so it hurts us when VidMe is sitting there trampling on, the freedoms of somebody because they made a tweet to a critic.
Yep.
It's like, what do we do? I mean, granted, we decided not to go leave the site or go black in protest, because that's not fair to any of our fans, any of our subscribers, or people that do like to watch us, because who we ultimately work for is our followers.
Absolutely. We don't work for the site. We work for our audience.
Yeah. It's like, we would like to see people come and watch us on whether it's YouTube or Twitch or VidMe, whatever platform you prefer. But at the same point, it's like, that doesn't mean that we're going to like everything about a particular site.
No, of course not.
I mean, it's with what is it? Gab, it's like, I like Gab because you can basically post whatever you want, but at the same point, it gets kind of tiring because it seems to be 90% politics, so I don't always pay attention to it. Facebook, it's okay too, but it has its places where it has issues. Reddit has a tendency to basically, they like to delete a lot of things, or becomes very echo chambery on things.
That's why I just stick with the humanity fuck yeah, because they just have really cool stories.
Yeah. But even on Reddit, there are areas that are kind of a little bit more bastions of freedom, because each one is its own little group.
Yeah.
And so that's a good thing too. It's like, so it's kind of weird seeing this whole thing happen, especially when VidMe had ended up stating, back in April that they put out a blog post and particularly said that we're making this whole VidMe category.
Yep.
And said, it's for creators that want to be feature other VidMe creators, channel milestones, pointers for the community, and criticism or feedback of the VidMe team. Mm-hmm. And don't worry, you won't hurt our feelings. It seems like somebody's feelings got hurt over a tweet here.
They did. They definitely did. And they acted in a way that was very much against their initial statement.
Yeah. Now, at the same point, with their latest statement where they were removing the VidMe category from trending, I actually agree with that from a business perspective.
Yeah.
That actually makes a lot of sense, because it is basically an internal circle jerk.
Yeah, that's essentially what it was. And, you would only see generally those in the trending feed, and wouldn't really give other creators and other categories a chance to kind of reach the top. And it was kind of just, they experimented with it, didn't turn out the way they were hoping it would, and so take it down. It makes sense, like you said, on a business standpoint.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it's like the business and the politics and news category. People are still allowed to post in there. They can still get tips. They can still show up in that feed, and they can get subscribers and everything. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be on the front page.
Nope.
But they are still allowed to post freely and everything else like that. And so that's all perfectly fine there. And even in some aspects, they're still doing a little bit better than the politics and news, because it's still one of the things that shows up in the feed as you scroll down the page is the whole VidMe category.
It does.
It's just not in the top 3 categories right now, which is channels you follow, the hot trending, and
the team picks, I believe.
The team picks. Yeah. So that's all fine and dandy, in that aspect. The problem is, though, is they went and took away the verification from Quintantino. And the problem is at this time, they stripped the category, from trending without letting anybody know, when all these videos were going up about free Quintantino, because they've now taken away his ability to get tips and subscribers.
Exactly. So put it into this perspective, it was a smarter choice for them to take down the VidMe category, but in the time that they did it was so wrong.
Yeah.
So get this. They take away Quintantino's verification status. He can no longer get subscribers. He can no longer get tips. On top of that, after that whole debacle started and the free Quintantino trend began taking its rise, that's when you start seeing that at the top of the trending page. As soon as that happened, that's when VidMe decides to take down the VidMe category from the hot trending page. What does that look like to the general public when they see that happening? It's almost as if, we don't want to see videos of you guys supporting this guy that we unfairly stripped of his status, so we're just going to kind of move this down here, and now they won't see it at the top of the page. That's how people are going to perceive it as.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people are going to say censorship. As long as you don't get into the nuances of what true censorship is or whatnot, that's their feeling on it.
Yeah, because at that point, it's like, you're not giving us the opportunity for our stuff to be seen easily. You're making it difficult to be seen. But, when you really look into and you kind of dissect the definition of censorship, the video's still up. You can still go see it, and you can still comment and everything on it and share it out. Right. You're just not going to see it on the trending page anymore.
Yeah, and really what's happened here is because they completely de-verified him, it's almost what it is he has received a very cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah.
Because they have kneecapped him from his ability to
make money
on VidMe when he was following the rules as a creator. I don't know how many people have ever looked at, the verified channel rules. You get all these things such as the ability to actually delete comments.
Yep.
So if you're unverified, people can say nasty things about you, and you
can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you can't even do anything about it. You're limited to 3 gigabytes a week upload. You're not showing in any categories. You had no ability to make money. None. Yeah. And we don't even know how this is going to work with ads that start coming to the site. Think about that.
Yeah, what's going to happen when his videos make ad revenue and none of that goes back to him?
Yeah. So we don't know, because right now the assumption is that ad revenue, you have to be a verified creator.
Yeah.
And that's how tips and subscriptions already work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a big thing with all that. And so, he was a verified creator. He was doing his own unique content and everything else like that, and was not violating any of the community rules.
None.
In regards to that aspect. He was, that's what's so amazing about it. It's like being verified is a privilege, but only as far as that you are posting your own original content.
Yeah, it's a privilege once you meet the criteria.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, and the criteria is, at least 50 BidMe followers strongly suggested. You don't even have to hit that.
Yeah.
Profile avatar, have at least one video, and adhere to the community rules.
So when you look back on Quintantino's channel, he definitely has more than 50 followers. He definitely has more than one video. He definitely uploads his own content. And so far from what I've seen, he has yet to break any of the community rules. So where in that did he lose his quote-unquote privilege of having a verification status?
Right. And this is, the funny thing is also is, Jack, we've been on this site for like basically 9 months.
Yep.
Okay.
Long enough to have a baby.
Yeah. And one of the things we saw at the beginning of the year when they enabled the hot trending and there was a influx of basically, alt-right conservatives for the most part, and everything was going on there. We saw a lot of arguments over censorship and everything else like this, and accusations, against VidMe.
Yeah.
In regards to the type of content they were hosting, particularly, pornographic or even pedophilic in nature, and there was 2 arguments going on there where people were screaming, against VidMe, saying that they were being censored. Some of those people ended up going out and flat out accusing VidMe on other platforms of hosting porn and basically child porn, pedophilia, and everything else like that. Funny thing is some of those creators are still verified on the platform.
Yeah, and they broke a lot of community rules.
Yeah, they had broke a lot of community rules at the time. They had ended up doxing some people by releasing their information. They had ended up basically, what was the other thing? They were miscategorizing intentionally.
Yeah, to make sure it got to the top.
Yeah, to make sure it got to the top, or to get around the whole politics and news being removed. And even now, what's funny is like Computing Forever. He's a lot more tempered. He's more about like freedom of speech and everything else like this. And even there's a lot of people who say some of his videos get miscategorized because, sure, he has a lot of videos in brain food because a lot of ideals and social issues and whatnot can be brain food when you're arguing a side. That's the problem with psychology and philosophy. It does not necessarily make it politics. Politics likes to hijack that.
Yeah.
But it does not make them political issues.
It doesn't.
But when you are talking specifically like, you have a video series called Regressive News, and you're talking about the news for the week, that's politics and news, yet it still gets put up into
brain food
multiple times, and yet this person still stays as verified on the site.
Even though they are at that point breaking, terms of use essentially.
Yeah. And that's the amazing thing, especially after the whole latest VidMe blog posts get put out, and it's kind of scary from people that protect, that are strong about freedoms, and protect the freedoms of people and everything else like this. Is flat out here at the end, it says, if you're looking for a place to troll, harass, exclude, or threaten people for the sake of attention, you won't find a home here. If you're looking for a place to be creative and publish your art, VidMe is it.
So what would be considered art?
That's the thing. It's like, there are a lot of people out there that would, look at this and go, okay, so if I put up my educational how-to tutorial on how to write code or how to do something educational, is that art? Some people go, no, that's not art. If you're talking about politics and news, is that art?
A lot of people would argue no.
Yeah. So, it's saying, well, we don't want all your content actually, do we?
No, we want the happy friendship, rainbows, and sunshine.
Yeah.
And I'll say this too. Before my dad went into the military, he wanted to be an artist. And he still very much holds a lot of his artistic, personality. He's a very artistic person. And he says himself, art is all based on your interpretation of it. Anything can be considered art if that is how you express yourself, if that is how you put yourself for the sake of expression. So technically speaking, if you're a sculptor, you're an artist. If you're a computer programmer, if that's how you express yourself, that's art.
Yeah, and it can be that broad, but then it's a lot of people go, well, this isn't art, also,
right,
and that's part of the problem. But even I don't know, expressing yourself to a critic, wanting to know what a critic is thinking on a matter, could be a form of art.
It could be.
So it just doesn't make sense, Yeah. Especially when with all this, it's a tough thing. It's just, has things gone to the point where VidMe is not adhering to their
own rules,
or their initial message. It's also, you remember Calvin Ball?
Calvin Ball, I do. I remember.
Yeah. What was the only rule in Calvin Ball?
Every new rule has to be different than the last.
Yeah, and you couldn't play the same game twice, basically.
Exactly.
So this is kind of like playing Calvin Ball right now.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of these different rules that necessarily weren't the start of it.
Or they're not in writing or everything else like that. It's like, come on, post freely, except for that.
Yeah, you can, bring in your huddled masses yearning to post freely, but you can't post this, and if you post something like that, we're just going to wipe away your verification status.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy. People should be allowed to express themselves either for VidMe or against VidMe. If you like the stuff of a creator, that's fine. If you want to have a discussion with a creator, you don't agree with them, that's fine. But when you start oppressing
people having their opinion and having their own critical thoughts on VidMe, just because it doesn't follow the everlasting circle jerk that VidMe's wanting, doesn't mean that, it's their right to just remove it just because it doesn't agree with what they want.
Right. And that's one of the recent ones we've even seen is like Russia. Russia has a tendency to shut down the people that speak out against them as a country. It's like,
yep.
What was one of the biggest ones was Pussy Riot. They ended up putting up a protest concert, speaking out, expressing themselves against Russia and the administration and everything else like this. And they got locked up in jail for expressing their dissidence, with
their displeasure.
Yeah, their displeasure with how the Russian government was ran. And this is something that we don't have to typically worry about in this country.
Exactly.
But now we're having to worry about that with VidMe because they have essentially thrown a creator in jail.
Essentially. Creator jail. They kneecapped him virtually.
Yeah. So that's why, they really should free Quentino.
We're on your side, Quentino.
Yes.
Just want to make that very loud and clear. We are on your side.
Right. And this all comes down to the freedoms and the message that VidMe has put out there. Because VidMe has even said in their video at the bottom for their Statue of Liberty video that they don't censor content for bad language or controversial subject matters. That
really makes you think there for a minute, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Is VidMe turning into the Russia of content creation? Because compared to YouTube, YouTube's done a lot of things where they've stripped creators and done some nasty things. It seems like they're going, we're going to go play a little bit more like YouTube does.
YouTube can't possibly, nothing can be any worse than YouTube. VidMe comes in. Hold my beer.
Hold my beer. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, I don't want I don't want to have to leave the platform.
Of course not.
Because it's been so good up to this point in a lot of aspects.
Yes, and I'm still very passionate about the site. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things right now that I'm not agreeing with right now, and a lot of things I kind of want to call you out on. But I still love the site. I still love the friends that I made on it, and I still love, the fact that, I just creators as a whole have been doing well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there is a lot better community, a lot more positivity, even as it breaks off some into other things. It's like, sure, there have been people that said, well, I don't want to be on VidMe because negative things are being said. But a lot of negative things are also said also over on YouTube. It's one of those things. It's like, what's the old saying? It's like, you can please some of the people all the time. Or you can please, you can please some of the people all the time, or none of the people all the time.
No, it's you can please some of the people all the time, or please all of the people none of the time.
Yeah, but you can't, or no, you can please all the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
I just like to use my grandfather's quote. You could do a handstand and gargle peanut butter upside down, and people would still complain it's the wrong brand.
Yeah. I mean, so sure, people should be allowed to speak out as long as they are posting their own unique content, whether it's against, whether it's about VidMe, positive or negative, because there's been a lot of changes. They are on a growing cycle, and they have to do a lot more accelerated cycle to catch up to other sites like YouTube and Dailymotion and Vimeo.
Oh yeah,
that's the problem. Is it's not the beginning of the game. This is a game that has been in play for a decade, plus at this point, and that's where a lot of this comes down to.
Yep.
And a lot of the things that have been going on is just because of the lack of proactive communication.
Yeah, there's a big lack of that.
Yeah, it's like the front page changed. They didn't make a blog post like they did last time. They didn't necessarily notify, except for like on Twitter, but not everyone follows Twitter. There was no announcement on their general platform when there's certain other changes that happen, such as, oh, hey, if you post another video, it's going to knock out your current video from trending once it gets into the top 10. But apparently there's a bug or a glitch around that, so it doesn't even set an accelerated decay. It just goes away from that entire hot trending. But they have in the past, manually removed videos from trending. So without any sort of explanation about what we've done, and there might be a bug, people have a tendency to assume and are going to assume that I've just had my video manually removed.
If you do questionable things, people will tend to question you.
Yes. And so being proactive in your communication will help with that. If there's some sort of change log that comes out saying, we have made these changes, it will help the users better. Because even on YouTube, they're always frustrated when there's an algorithm change or something like this, and there's no notification of it, and that's even a frustration over there. So, I don't know. You got anything else you want to say, Jack?
No, I think we've covered all the points that we needed to. I honestly don't really have anything to add. We've kind of hit on all the subjects pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, basically, in summary, it's like support your troops. Support the people that protect your freedoms. Support your government workers, and remember we're the ones that fought for people's rights to be able to post freely, express freely, and to do what you want freely and be free from unreasonable oppression.
Yep.
So, that's one of the reasons why we've liked platforms such as Gab or Minds or VidMe. And we hope that Quintantino will be freed from his oppression and unjust and cruel punishment and be allowed to post again.
Absolutely. Quintantino, wishing the best for you, buddy.
Fourth of July and how important, freedoms are
Yep.
to,
Tell me how great it is to be in a country where we are free to express ourselves
yeah,
and free to speak our minds without fear of being pushed down.